psychedelics or experiences or something like that. I'm going to talk about us as a community. Well, my topic today is psychedelic research's own experiences with psychedelic substances and connections with psychedelic communities. What do you think? Do psychedelic researchers have own experiences with psychedelics? Yeah. And actually, here we talked quite a lot about sound. It's maybe interesting fact that for my part, this research project started in a sauna meeting. We were sauna with some colleagues and discussed why there is so little discussion about our own experiences with psychedelic substances. The background is that I'm a cultural anthropologist, and in that discipline it has been quite 20 years the mainstream idea that we all are humans and we are involved humanity with what we are studying. So we are not outsiders, we are human beings with our background, with our some kind of beliefs and social status and our own experiences. That's why it's important to reflect those experiences to do better science. Well, and after the summer session, we started to do the research on psychedelic researchers' own experiences with Dr. Turku. And here's some basic information about the research. There was a online study including both qualitative and quantitative questions. And we did recruitment in social media and email lists, and also we contacted persons who had publications on psychedelics. And here's some basic background information, what kinds of things we asked them. And here are something about the results. Finally, 111 persons did answer to all questions. Most of them were from medicine, psychology, and neuroscience, quite many from the field of philosophy, and some others too. And here is a short summary of the qualitative research. As I think that most of you guessed, well, quite many psychedelic researchers have had their own experiences with psychedelic substances, but not everyone. 15% of the participants have never experienced any psychedelic substances. In that the population of the 111 persons, there were even 6 persons who had never used cannabis, which is, I think that's somehow quite fascinating piece of information. And the most common story was that the researchers had a meaningful, significant experience with the psychedelics before they started their scientific career or doing research on psychedelics. 72% of the participants reported that a personal experience had somehow sparked interest in psychedelic science. And most persons actually thought that it's quite important to reflect the experiences. Most of them said that it's both good and bad thing to have that kind of background. It helps to understand the phenomena they are studying, but there is also risks. And what is quite interesting is that according to these findings, personal use of classical psychedelics predicted more positive opinions of psychedelics. We asked things like, do you believe that psychedelics help to solve ecological crisis or make society better or something like that? And the result was that the persons who were used psychedelics more positive ideas about these questions. And I'm not talking more about the quantitative results because we have published them. You will find this article in Psychopharmacology. It came out this summer. And actually, I appreciate very much that they published them because it's like a hard science journal, and our approach was quite anthropological or philosophical, so quite different from everything else in that journals. So I'm happy that they decided to publish that, and I asked my anthropologist colleagues that do you have ever published something in psychopharmacology? No one actually has. You can find that article. It's open access. Yeah, and I will focus next on the open questions. We asked these questions. How did you become a psychedelics researcher? Please reflect on what is the meaning or relevance of your own psychedelic experience, if you have any, for your academic research. And do you feel, and what do you think about psychedelic cultures and communities and your relationship to them? We didn't define what is the psychedelic culture or community. They defined it by themselves, and it was quite visible that they are quite different communities. And then there was the most important question. I recommend everyone to add this question to all surveys. How do you feel about this survey? So there is open field to tell anything you want to researchers. There are actually the most interesting answers we are in that field. Yeah. As I thought, the most common story in the data, this is a good example. My personal experiences a long time ago sparked an interest in consciousness, psychology and pharmacology, as well as a strong interest in psychedelic experiences. This is the very usual story in that data set. There was something that happened maybe quite a long time ago that sparked interest in psychedelic research. And it's also quite common among the participants that after that experience, they started to do research on psychedelics, and then maybe they lost some of the enthusiasm and maybe become more critical or skeptical, something like that. And here is quite a long piece of information. So, but that's the example what kind of things there were in the data. Most common thing they maybe was that the own experience helped to connect the participants. The own experience helped to understand the experiences of the participants in the study, and also it somehow helped to form hypotheses. Yeah, and there were also this kind of reflections on the meaning of the own experiences. On the other hand, it helps to understand the subjective phenomena associated with psychedelics, but on the other hand, it can be problematic. Very many participants in the research, they see that it's also, on the other hand, it's very beneficial to have on experience. It helps to understand the phenomenology of the thing they are doing research on, but on the other hand, they saw very well that it can be problematic. And then there was also kind of counter-narrative among the participants. They were talking against something. And here is one example. So this participant describing his or her attitude Yeah, but it's a training field, and but on the other hand, I'm far from being an activist pro psychedelics, and I'm still in the field because I'm good at it, not because I want everyone else to do things. So here, because I think that it's participant writes that way because he or she thinks that there are persons on the field who are pro-psychedelics activists, or they want, or everyone else takes to take. Even there is maybe this is the most extreme opinion among the participants. The field is unbelievably biased with psychedelic users with an agenda. What do you think? Do you have an agenda? Yeah, but there is this kind of counter-narrative. They are reflecting their own position in the field that I'm not an activist, I'm not over-enthusiastic, I'm not naive. But on the other hand, there are others who are naive, who are over-enthusiastic, who are even pro-psychedelics activists. So it's pretty interesting to find this kind of story among the, or narrative among the respondents, because we never asked about that. Some of these narratives were in that field, how do you feel about this survey? And they answered, it's really important to study these topics because there are that kind of concerns, there are that kind of problems on the field. There are like naive researchers, there are activists, and there are our enthusiastic researchers on the field. No one said that he or she is naive or our enthusiastic, but some reflected that it's possible that own experiences are affected that way. But maybe mainly when they are very young. Well, maybe something to think about. I have my background as an underground or subcultural researcher. I have worked, for instance, with neo-Nazi black metal musicians. So I have that kind of background, and I can't avoid thinking that psychedelic researchers maybe are kind of subculture itself, but it's something to think about. Do we share values? Do we share beliefs? Is it possible to get integrated to this community without adapting these values or beliefs? Another question I'm asking, I'm not saying anything, but I'm just asking these questions. It's very clear based on our data that there is some need for discussion on this topic. Many of our colleagues think that they would like to talk more about their experiences and their relevance to their scientific work. But is there any safe space in academia for that kind of reflections? Well, we know that in most countries it's really problematic to talk about their own psychedelic experiences. But we never asked where these experiences happened, if they were legal or illegal or something like that. But it's quite natural to think that most of this experience has been underground and has been illegal in those countries where they happened. So we all understand it can be very challenging to talk about these things, even though most of the researchers think that it's somehow important to be able to talk about own experiences and possible biases caused by those experiences, where this can happen. we can't ask anyone to talk openly about things that can harm them. But is there safe space inside the academia where we can discuss that kind of things, the relevance of the personal experiences for the scientific world? And I still have one more slide there, a conclusion. As we see, maybe younger colleagues have more clear ideas what to do. This is a master's student who said, I believe that it being an important part of research to state one's own bias as clearly as possible. The questions scratch the surface on this type of reflection. So maybe my own conclusion is that also that it's not problematic to have own experiences with psychedelics. It's not problematic to be a pro-psychedelics activist. But you have to have clear idea what you are doing. So what kind of biases, that kind of positions can cause for your research. So I think that the solution for a possible problem of psychedelic use is, it's not like denying the use of psychedelics or that say that it's not allowed to do psychedelic research if you have your own experience. I'm not saying that, but if you have own experiences or if you don't have, so you have to be conscious of the position in relation to that field you are doing research on. And I also think that we should allow that kind of reflections inside the psychedelics research community. And I think that's everything I would like to say about this topic. So, thank you.
Thanks, Aila. I came up with an idea. You know, the customer service people have the flags that tell which languages they speak. Maybe next conference we'll have like in the name tag substance and people have tried themselves. Sort of like as a disposition of the positionality.
I think that could be really problematic too.
We will consider that. We're not making any promises yet.
Thank you for this presentation. I was wondering if you are planning to continue investigating this, but more from an anthropological method, so participant observation at psychedelic conferences, for instance, or something like that.
Thank you for the question. I'd love to continue with more anthropological methods to doing ethnographic field work and interviews, but I have so many projects going on, and I don't think that will happen during the next years. But well, we are working on another article basing on the open questions and more qualitative data. So you will see something more in the near future.
So my question is if you did any analyses comparing these outcomes based on research disciplines, so like neuroscience, medicine, whatever, philosophy, etc.
Yeah. Actually, we tried to do that kind of analysis, but there were so few persons outside medicine, psychology, and neuroscience that well, it wasn't meaningful at the end. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, that was a great talk. Sorry about my voice. So, in interest of full disclosure, I'm a researcher. I've taken psychedelics. I'm pro-psychedelic. So, just in case there's conflict. But what's curious to me is, I don't think it's necessarily an issue if somebody takes psychedelics. I don't think it's an issue if it informs their ideas. But if they argue from their personal experience, if they don't back it up by evidence, The problem isn't that they're pro-psychedelic, it's that they're anti-scientific, if you follow what I mean, right? So, would you think the psychedelic researchers need some sort of check from the outside, from other scientists who aren't in the psychedelic field to check it if there is potentially this bias? Because that would call into question peer review within the psychedelic community, for example.
I don't think it's problematic to have their own experiences or to be an activist, but I think that what we need is self-reflection. How do my own experience or lack of the experience affect the ways we ask questions, what kinds of themes we are interested in, because even in so-called hard science, that kind of things like your personal background affect the things you are interested in, or what kinds of questions you will ask. And when you're doing some kind of more interpretation, for example, in anthropology also, our background affects the ways we do analysis and something like that. But it's a good idea to maybe cooperate more with scientists from other fields. And also I think that we shouldn't be in some psychedelic science silo without contact with other academics. It's best reason maybe if we cooperate with people from other fields. That's a really good idea.
Thank you. I have enjoyed that very much. I wonder whether the experience, so personal experiences and those research projects, how this interrelation can be looked at. So I know of a lot of people who chose to go into medicine or the healing disciplines because they have a disabled sibling or a chronically ill parent, for instance, where sort of a certain attitude to caring for others has become something of second nature, and that's never talked about. Yeah? It is not something that is usually stigmatized as maybe an obstacle to becoming a medic. So I wonder about the degree to which the risk might be that you have people who have maybe just taken a psychedelic once or twice and then they extrapolate from this massive understanding that they haven't actually got. In terms of when they engage ability, for instance, when we discuss, I think in I just say often I've been told that if we ask the question, should therapists have experience, then maybe they should have more than one or two. That if that is as far as that comes in, then a certain richness and diversity of experience in different contexts might be more important in order to widen the experience itself, so that it's not biasing the research in a certain way. I think that makes sense. What do you think about this question of, is it especially problematic because it's illegal, or is it especially problematic because it causes a bias?
But I'm not a moralist. I'm not that interested in that fact that it's illegal, because I know that many kinds of things are illegal in different concepts, and selling witchcraft was illegal about 30 years ago in Finland, or something like that. So I'm not that interested in that side. But of course, that psychedelics are illegal in most countries. That makes it more difficult to openly reflect the meaning of the experiences. But I think that the possible bias is not because someone has have had experiences or not having experiences, but it's just that if he or she, for instance, very wishes or hopes that the results are very good or something like that. So if there is that kind of a very human, like they want to see some kind of results or something like that, they just I don't know how to say it, but I don't think that having experience or not having experience is a problem, but the way you reflect or not reflect the background. Yeah.
Okay, one more question.
Yeah, so when I revisit the moral dimension, I'm just wondering, what does it mean for a field or its place in society maybe over 80% of its researchers are unrepentant criminals. It's sort of a amusing twist, but like, just maybe I want you to grapple with it, because that might be very unique for this field.
Well, I want to underline that we don't know how many of these persons have done any criminal acts because we never asked where this experience happened. It's possible that everyone has been participating in clinical trials or participating in ayahuasca rituals somewhere where it's legal, so we don't know.
Let's say over 50.
Yeah. But well, I think that the most significant thing is that makes somehow psychedelic research community, underground community, there are things that are invisible, there are things we don't want to talk about, there are things we can't talk about because we are afraid of consequences or something like that. That makes that community quite special in a scientific field. But I don't think that it's a moral question. It's more like a pragmatic question that makes like a good scientific practice more difficult.
Excellent. Many thanks, Simon.